First Annual Jackie Robinson Award, presented to Howard Cosell, in recognition of his dedication to furthering the cause of minority athletes, his championing of the underdog, support of college academics as well as sports, and his uniquely direct and honest reporting of sporting events. I'd like to ask Howard to stand and acknowledge the receipt of this award. I hope you will be back here many times in the future to speak to us, and I don't think we could have selected a better recipient.
I grew up in the shadows of Ebbets Field, as Roger Kahn did, who wrote The Boys of Summer. And the Brooklyn Dodgers were a very big part of my life. I was there when a pigeon-toed young man played a position strange to him, first base. And I saw how trembling and terrified he was and how he tried to shroud it. And I saw him go on to be the very greatest all-around athlete I've ever seen. And there are so many things you remember about a man like that. There are baseball things, of course. His trademark was his legs. You remember Bojangles Robinson, the tap dancer, doing his thing on top of the dugout at Ebbets Field, the frenzy that Jackie evoked. You remember even October 2nd, 1951, when Thompson hit the home run, and there was Jackie, waiting to see if he would touch home, when all of the other Dodgers had already gone heads bowed to that Polo Grounds clubhouse. You remember how Jackie left baseball, how he had to, how the sports writers turned on this extraordinary man who had had bestiality heaped upon him through all of the years, particularly in the beginning with Ben Chapman, how the St. Louis Cardinals had tried deliberately to spike him. Those are things you remember, but you remember how the sporting press turned upon him and said he had gone out fraudulently. He had defied the very character he had pretended to have. Why? Because the man had made an honest contractual commitment with Look magazine, had gotten large-scale payment for it to protect himself and his family. And he couldn't have been more honest. The dishonest ones were the sports writers who, for their own puny personal purposes, claimed that somehow Robinson had an obligation to them, to be preeminent above that to his family. Sure, you remember all those things. Even then, there were the beginnings of troubles with Jackie Jr. Why, oh why in God's name did we ever name him Jackie Jr.? The poor lad beleaguered almost from the time he could talk. You're going to be like your father. You're going to be a great baseball player. No, Jackie and Rachel knew the mistake. Rachel especially. In the entire Jackie Robinson lifetime and my relationship with him, I never heard him say I. It was only we. His love affair with Rachel, I think, was one of the great stories of my lifetime. She is a glorious woman, once beautiful. She is worn and beaten now because of the loss of a son and the loss of a husband. But Jackie Robinson was nothing without Rachel. And so, quite properly, it was always we. Jackie Jr. early got into trouble, but he recovered from it because of the strength and help of his parents. And then Jackie Jr. went to war in Vietnam and became a drug addict. But he was rehabilitated from that, too. During all of this time, Jackie Sr. had been stricken by the most malignant form of diabetes. And he began to have all kinds of troubles. A coronary, a second coronary, blindness in one eye, encroaching blindness in the other, and then the death of Jackie Jr. We left his funeral together. We sat in a car. We talked about his whole life. Jackie, were you singled out, do you think, by God to bear some kind of burden? And he said, yes, I really think so. And we talked about the blindness. We talked about the diabetes. We talked about the loss of Jackie Jr. And then finally I said, Jack, how would you characterize your life? And he said, oh, we've had a great life. Again, the we. So much accomplished, so much yet before us. He died. In another month, he would have been totally blind in the second eye had he lived another year. This marvelous man, with this magnificent body, with his legs his trademark, would have had to have both legs amputated. He died the way he lived. He was the most unconquerable man I've ever known. That's why I'm proud to be here tonight. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Howard Cosell.